This video contains some harsh language and a bit of gore. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everybody, my name is Mr. K. Sardonicus. Welcome to my Vault of Horror. Thank you to everyone who is returning, and to those who are new to this channel, welcome back, and I hope you enjoy your stay. Today, we are finally going to do my top 10 favorite horror movies of 2025. So, let's get into this intro. Now, before we begin this list, I just want to explain a few things before we get into it. First off, I wanted to just let y'all know I haven't seen every single horror movie out there that is released this year. It was really difficult to even find any of these movies playing in my theater because the movie theater in my town fucking sucks. So, there's some movies that I couldn't see or had to wait later to see, but there will be a top 12 underrated horror movies of 2025 coming out next year in January. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's get into number 10, shall we? At number 10, we have the only Stephen King adaptation on this list, and there have been many this year. And I think this one is probably the most horror-based out of all the movies. I'm not even counting It Welcome to Derry, because that was definitely a banger and a great one. But anyways, The Monkey is a very interesting horror comedy that really is just downright fun. Now, did all the humor land? No. And, was it like exactly like the story that the movie's based off of? No, not really. But it had good performances. The gore and carnage was plenty. And there was some decent scares in here. And I seriously think that it deserves at least a little bit of a mention. And that's why it's at my number 10. At number 9, this was the first surprise for me this year. It came out in January, and the thing is, I didn't even see it until, I believe, February or April, because the weather was so bad that I couldn't see it in theaters. So I had to wait till it came on HBO Max a few months later. But this is the first surprise that I had this year, and this is Companion. Companion is literally what Megan wishes it could fucking be. Which is more interesting, more violent, humor that lands, and actual interesting characters. I don't know why it takes Blumhouse such a fucking long time to get things right. And, it's ridiculous. They couldn't even nail the fucking Android robot movie. But this movie did. Companion did. And I'm actually very grateful that I got to see it. And I know that the trailers showed a lot of what the movie was like, but it didn't spoil everything. And it felt refreshing to finally have like some kind of Android horror movie that isn't complete dog shit. And that's why I gotta give it my number 9. Now, at number 8, this is going to be either a controversial one because it's on the list, or it's going to be a controversial one because it's not lower on that higher on the list. This is the long-awaited sequel, 28 years later. Now, look, there was a couple bits of it that I was like kind of iffy on, but all in all, it is a great sequel and lead up to the Bone Temple that's coming out next month. And it's just a great sequel to the 28 days later and 28 weeks later. Like, I seriously think that this is a solid entry. And if, from what I'm hearing, Bone Temple is going to be probably even better than 28 years later. And I just, seriously, this movie is so well acted. The tension is very, very strong. And they don't skip on the violence. There's plenty of gore and nuttiness and absolute fucking chaos. And you get to see an evolution of this rage virus that we haven't seen before in this franchise. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do next, especially if they're going to make this a trilogy. So I gotta give 28 years later my number 8 spot. At number 7, this was a very nice Halloween treat for me. Thing is that VHS is my favorite found footage horror franchise, and I personally am a huge fan of horror anthologies. So when Shudder announced that they were going to do a Halloween-based VHS movie this year, I was all in right from the get-go. But I didn't know if I was going to like it as much as I do. But, man, this was a fun fucking time. One of the best VHS entries that we have gotten. And every single story is solid. And it's creepy in many different ways. And you got the fun ones, you got the spooky ones, and then you got the really fucking dark one. There's a specific story in this movie that has no humor, all scares, just all serious. Like, it gets dark. After the other couple of segments of it being like just complete fun, just little scary bits and, just a bunch of excitement, like you're gonna have a fucking blast with it, But then one particular story begins, and it is a slow burning, dark, fucked up, like straight out of a crime thriller type thing. Like something that would happen in reality. And that, it was actually the most scariest story in the movie without having any, like, mutants or monsters or body parts being turned into candy. No, like, this was something, like, so much more raw. And I gotta, and that's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much. But yeah, I could go on and on about VHS Halloween. I might just do a ranking of the VHS franchise in the future, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, VHS Halloween is my number 7. At number 6, we have my personal favorite horror comedy of the year. This came from Screambox, and after reviewing this movie on multiple platforms, I have been graced with the friendship of the director, a good amount of the actors, the writers, and producers of this movie since reviewing it in February. This is the Screambox exclusive Cannibal Comedian. Cannibal Comedian is one of those completely fucking absurd concepts that you think wouldn't work, but totally fucking does, thanks to the funny script, the good jokes, the clever acting, and the absolute bloodshed that happens. Think about this. A cannibal serial killer that sells meat sandwiches to people around where he lives wants to be a stand-up comedian and use his cannibal persona as a skit. And it just goes on from there. Just chaos ensues. This is literally something that would be like something that the cult film director John Waters would direct. This felt like almost like that one movie that John Waters did with Divine, but as like a mixture of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like a John Waters film of some kind. I'll have my mascot mention what the name of that movie is that I'm trying to remember. But this movie was nuts and funny and grotesque and just fun. I had more fun with this and had more laughs with this than The Monkey. And I had to give this my number 6 spot because of how good it really is. At number 5, we have Zach Cregger's Weapons. Now, I didn't know really much of anything going into this. I actually got to see this. It was one of the times that this year I got to see a movie in theaters opening night. And this was a good one. Now, I'm not saying that it's like number 3 or material or anything. That's why it's at number 5. I enjoyed this movie. I thought this was a great fucking horror movie, and if you just go in blind, not knowing what the villain is, what's going on, like what the entire plot is, it drip feeds you information of what the hell's going on in this movie, and then as it goes on, you slowly begin to understand what the hell is happening. This is literally one of the best written and story-driven horror movies of this year. And the villain is actually definitely one of the creepiest villains that we have seen this year alone in cinematic horror. I don't want to give too much away. Some of you have probably already seen it multiple times. But seriously, Zach Krieger's Weapons gets the number 5 spot. At number 4, we have the Philippou brothers, Bring Her Back. Bring Her Back was a very interesting experience for me personally, because my mom actually tagged along with me to go see it because she was curious about it. She's never even seen Talk to Me. She doesn't know who the Philippou brothers are and what they've been capable of on YouTube. She's very behind on stuff like that. And I seriously think that this was definitely one of the best and creepiest horror experiences that I've had this year alone. This was a brutal, bleak, and sad tale of grief, loss, and hoping that, you could do the right thing, but it's just, everything just topples sometimes. It is an absolute just nightmare. It is a nightmare through and through. And it is definitely one of the creepiest films that I've seen this year. And my mom definitely thought it was one of the creepiest ones that she's seen this year too. So the fact that it impacted her just as much as it impacted me definitely makes this worth the number 4 spot. At number 3, we have the long-awaited remake that actually finally dropped in theaters earlier this year. The remake of The Toxic Avenger. This movie I did not get to see in theaters at all because it wasn't playing anywhere near me. But a couple months ago, I believe it was in October. Yeah, it was in October. I bought the movie physically at Walmart for $17. And I just wanted to own it because I didn't feel like spending $25 just to rent the damn thing. So I decided to just buy it physically because it was cheaper. And when I watched this movie, I was actually having a bad week around that time that I watched it. And this new Toxic Avenger film actually brought me so much fucking joy. And I appreciated what it was capable of doing and how much it just made me happy. Like, this was a heartfelt horror comedy that is a great homage to the Troma films. I seriously think that this is going to be one of my favorite films of the 2020s alone, not just this year. This brought me so much joy. Peter Dinklage was great as his character. Kevin Bacon was the craziest he had ever fucking been. And, the entire cast was absolutely incredible. And I wasn't expecting one of the main actresses to be the same actress that was in It Welcome to Derry in the show, starring in it. But yeah, it definitely deserves the number 3 spot. At number 2, now, this was originally for the longest time, for several months since it came out, it was on my number 1 spot until now. It got to my number 2 spot. This was literally one of the first movie theater experiences that I had this year. And it is the first movie in this franchise that I even got to see in theaters. This was Final Destination Bloodlines. This is literally, like, in my opinion, the best Final Destination sequel since the Final Destination 2. This is a fantastic gem of a film that has great humor, great dialogue, great gore, a great story around it. It's not the same slapdash fucking same thing as all the other Final Destination movies. It does something different and it fucking works. And this is actually the first time this year in a movie theater that I actually cried, because this Final Destination Bloodlines was the famous actor Tony Todd's final role before he passed away. And he was able to ad-lib a goodbye, a goodbye speech to all of his fans in the movie. And during that scene, I cried. And that is a rarity for me to cry during a movie, especially in the theaters. This was an absolute blast, and the only reason why it's on my number 2 spot is because of this one coming up next. Now, before we get at number 1, I would like you guys to please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what your favorite horror movies of 2025 are. Let me know in the comments, man, because, you know, we could talk about this for fucking ever. This year alone was a great one. And like I said, I'll be doing an underrated horror movies of 2025 later next month. So now, let's get at number 1. At number 1, honestly, there's no question. There's no question what number 1 is. Number 1 is Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein. This is not only the best horror movie that I've seen this year, but is literally the best film alone that I've seen this year. I wish that I would have been able to see this in theaters like some people have. But I didn't get that opportunity. But still, on my 4K TV, it still looked more amazing than it ever could have possibly been. This was an absolute fucking masterpiece from beginning to end. This is a long fucking movie. This is 2.5 hours. And it kept my attention all the way through. Jacob Elordi, I believe is his name, who plays the monster. He did an incredible job. Oscar Isaac was great as Dr. Frankenstein. The entire cast did an incredible job with what they were trying to do. This was an incredible fucking film. And I definitely recommend watching this since it's now on Netflix, because, man, it is absolutely amazing. I'm telling you, you got to watch this version of Frankenstein. And it's not entirely like the book. It's more like a different version of the multitude of movies that we've gotten. But seriously, it is absolutely a phenomenal film, and it deserves to be at my number 1. And that is it, everybody. Now, like I said before, comment below what your favorite horror movies of 2025 are. We will be later this month, at the end of the month, we're going to be doing a top 7 worst horror movies that I've personally seen. So stay tuned for that. And then at the beginning of next month in January, we're going to do top 12 underrated horror movies of 2025. So also stay tuned for that and so much more. So until next time, guys, take care.